What's so bothersome about the transgender debate on the youth is why it is so important to them and the science and the professional organizations to do it with children. Like, why is it so hard for them to just wait until they're an adult? And now I understand all the arguments because I've read the the predators' arguments, but that's how I see them as predators. They don't want to just let puberty take place or let them become an adult first. They want to push it on as many as possible. And a lot of us have said that it's wicked, okay, and it is, but really, there always has to be an explanation in my mind for the wickedness, and what it is science. Because it goes back to what I said last night, really early this morning, that has bothered me for so many years since working with DCFS kids, is that they've already written those kids off. It's almost like they set them up to fail. They really do. They set them up to be in prison, to end up in prison, or to end up ODing or drug addict, committing suicide. That's the statistics for most of, and it does not have to be that way. But because of science and their damn research, they have wanted to keep it a continual stream of people that they can research on. And I think that's why they're doing this to youth. Because at some point they know that there come this point that it's no longer acceptable. Okay, at some point I think that the more logical heads will prevail eventually here, and then it'll be like, oh, mistake, sorry, we shouldn't have supported that, and then they always just get away with it, right? It's okay because you're educated. I mean, how many of the scientists or researchers have ever gone to jail? Really, none. And many of their social experiments that have been done throughout the history have been without consent. Because, I mean, we're currently under one right now. COVID was a good example of one. Because the researchers aren't right in the head. They're the people that need to be locked up. I'm not giving a pass here. I'm not. This shit's gone on forever. I was reading up on the social experiments that they do. Most of them they don't even get consent for, because it's the social experiment. You could say, oh, well, they're just observing. Well, yeah, but whenever they manipulate situations or create groups or organizations that want to push and lobby something to force all of the country or the community, whatever, then they're manipulating it. Just pisses me off. It pisses me off because I think these scientists should be written off as, because what I've read is that many of them see, like, the reason they'll use the prison population, and they've done that over and over again in history, not just for social experiments, but actual medical experimentation, like replacing testicles on prisoners with dead prisoners' testicles to see if it rejuvenates, like sick stuff. But then we seem to elevate, promote, and award sick shit. We do. I mean, downtown in Chicago, I've mentioned this many times before, it was a horror show. For nursing school, I had to go to the International Surgical Museum. It's 4 levels right there on the lake, okay? Beautiful, a beautiful old building, old house, but it's 4 floors of horror. It's a horror show of the history of surgery. And then it's all dedicated to Dr. Thorick. There's a Thorick hospital in Chicago. And Dr. Thorick was all into removing, he did stuff above Thorick Hospital. He had a lab, I think it was above the hospital. And he was doing experimentations with, like, goat testes, putting them on elderly people. Like, just, the history of it all is just questionable. And yet they look at the people that they do this to, like the prison population, and say, well, they're disposed, they're no good anyway. And that's how they look at those DCFS kids. And I think that's what's pissed me off through the years, because that is exactly what I saw. And so I think that, the most disgusting people in the country, in my opinion, right now, are the higher educated. I mean, I know there's some. There's your, I try to give Jordan Peterson a pass because he seems to at least try to, but really, the higher educated, because they're the least likely to have a moral compass. I mean, some of these experiments, even when they weren't experiments, like there was one I read, and it was just with one girl. It was never meant to become an experiment. And her name was Jeannie. And her parents had abused her for 13 years. And so she had no social skills. And then she ended up getting in the hands of people that were supposed to be helping her, but they really only were just saw her as a research subject. So she ended up in and out of foster homes and never got better. So how is medicine or research? How do you live with yourselves? Well, I think you do, because you put on a suit and tie and you have all these letters after your name and you say, no, I'm a researcher. I have a home and a wife and a family. Yeah, and you don't have a moral compass, and you people are the ones doing all this research, and you're the ones like American Medical Association, Nursing Association, Psychiatric Association, Psychology Association, supporting youth transgenderism. The same damn problem that's been going on in the history of America, really the world. It went on during the Holocaust and the horrors that happened there. I mean, it absolutely infuriates me. And yet this shows what deadbeats we have in Congress, because they're following these deadbeat lobbyists that are doing the bidding for these medical and professional associations that then gets handed down into the hospital system and the doctor's office. Because if you're an ethical person, what adults want to do with their body, they want to cut things off, they want to go change their gender. I can have my opinions about it, okay? But what they want to do is up to them ultimately. It's not for me to decide. But this push for youth gender affirming care is such a disgrace and so depraved. And what they try to say is you're going after the gender affirming care youth. No, I'm not. I'm trying to help them. I'm trying to help so that no other ones fall into the predator's hands, because that's what it is. Look, the definition of predator, let's be really clear. An organism that lives by preying on other organisms, a person or group that robs victims or exploits others for gain. And who funds the transgender lobby group? Pharma, one of the biggest money makers in the world. They are. I mean, the top anyway. And they fund it. Why would they fund it? Well, because they want the science to have research subjects, continuing ones in all different facets, all different research subjects, so many universities, so many genome labs, so many different experiments they can have. And then how does that serve pharma? Oh, well, because they'll have to be the miracle makers and come up with a drug that's going to fix everything. What a fucking joke.